Welcome back to the Golden State with Mates post-game live after the Warriors get a nice surprising 116-109 victory over the Oklahoma City Thunder at Chase Center on Wednesday night. I say surprising because it was really the Gilgeous-Alexander show in the first half. He had 31 points, he had 52 for the game. The Warriors found themselves down by 14, down by 10 at halftime, but the Warriors brought a different energy, different intensity to the game in the second half, quickly eroded that double-digit deficit, and the game became a little bit of a tussle, and the Warriors really got on top thanks to some tough shot making, it must be said, in the fourth quarter, and also defensively, they started to stifle the Thunder quite a bit, who really got nothing outside of Shea, who obviously went for 52, and Jalen Williams went for 26 as well. They had just 31 points from every other player. They shot, I think, just 9 of 39 from three-point range, less than 30%. So, yeah, a good performance from the Warriors, it must be said, against the conference-leading Oklahoma City Thunder. I'll get to your comments here in a second, but I think the biggest thing to take away from this game was the performances of Andrew Wiggins and also Kevon Looney, who are both kind of in the middle of trade discussions right now, it must be said, with the Warriors having been linked to Jimmy Butler yesterday, and then quite a significant report from Marcus Thompson and Anthony Slater of The Athletic earlier today, which linked the Warriors to Zach LaVine, which we can talk about that, but that's quite substantial given the Warriors probably could have had LaVine in the offseason, decided not to go for him. LaVine's had an impressive bounce-back season with Chicago, and now the Warriors renewing their interest here and the potential LaVine trade, who makes $43 million and would likely require Wiggins and possibly Looney as well. So you got two guys here who, if the Warriors are to pull off a significant trade for a guy making over $40 million, which at the moment looks like either Butler or LaVine, those two guys are going to be big factors in that. And they've just come out and led the Warriors to a victory here just over a week before the deadline. Wiggins had 27 points, 4 rebounds, was 10 of 17 from the floor, 5 of 8 from three-point range, had that big dagger corner three there in the final 90 seconds. So some of the shot making from the Warriors, just a side point, some of the shot making in the fourth quarter was stupidly good and surprising. Like, Steph had that long distance bomb in the final 2 minutes after the Thunder had cut it to 3. Wiggins, the possession later, had that tough corner three over a pretty significant contest. Earlier in the quarter, he had Schroeder with a tough pull-up mid-range. Pods, shot clock fading, tough step back mid-range. Kyle Anderson, turnaround fadeaway mid-range at the buzzer in the fourth quarter. Like, the Warriors, I don't want to say this was fluky, but they hit some shots there in the fourth quarter that you're like, well, they just don't usually make those shots. And when Slow-Mo made that turnaround fadeaway, I was like, this might be the Warriors' night. So that was huge. But yeah, Wiggins was massive, and I think we can talk about it more in terms of a trade sense. But I just don't think he's too valuable to the Warriors to be giving him up for either Zach LaVine or Jimmy Butler, particularly Butler. I'm definitely not doing it for Butler. You could talk me into LaVine a little bit because I do think that would be a significant offensive upgrade, and would also alleviate the hole that is next to Steph at the moment in terms of the starting shooting guard position. So you can maybe have an argument with me about LaVine. The Butler thing, I'm just not trading Wiggins for Butler. There's no way, shape, or form I'm doing that. So he just reiterated his value in this game. And then Loon, who I think everyone just throws into any trade machine stuff that you see on social media from Warriors fans, this always includes Kevon Looney. He's just constantly underrated. Obviously had a disappointing season last year, has kind of come and gone a little bit this season. I think he's played well for the majority, but he still found himself out of the rotation at times. And in this game, he entered it with a season high. His season high in scoring was 12 points. He breaks through that massively. He has 18 points, has 4 blocks. Loon was like a genuine rim protector in this game, which, I mean, you very rarely see that. He's a good defender, but he's not like this shot blocking presence normally. He had 4 blocks, a big one there in the fourth quarter. So it was really, to me, it was Andrew Wiggins and Kevon Looney who reiterated their value to the Warriors amid the current trade speculation. And after those performances, and you're not going to base it off one game, and I think that's important to remember here is like you're not going to base it off one performance. These two performances from Wiggs and Loon are not going to be the sole reasons as to why they remain Warriors beyond the trade deadline. But I think it still comes at an important time. We saw last season, like you could have said to me a month before the deadline last season that the Warriors were absolutely going to make a move. And then the last couple of weeks from a team perspective, they actually got things rolling a little bit and they decided not to make a move. Like I think performances at this point are actually vitally important. Like there is a timing to this. And so for those two to deliver the performances they did in a big game, nationally televised against the best opponent in the Western Conference, arguably the best opponent in the league, without Draymond Green, without Jonathan Kuminga, with Steph Curry going for 2 points in the first half, like you can't understate that performance whatsoever. So just huge nights from Andrew Wiggins and Kevon Looney. Anyway, going to get back to your comments here. Cornelis says, Big Loon, seriously, we need a shooter, a consistent shooter, and someone who can get a bucket at the two guard that's not expensive. Well, who can you get that's not expensive? I think LaVine is the one. Like, would a Steph LaVine backcourt bring you defensive concerns? Absolutely. But they're starting Buddy Hield anyway. Which Buddy Hield in the first half was a ginormous disaster. It was probably we know he's been bad. This was a whole new level of bad. He missed a couple of wide open threes. He had a weird turnover when Steph wasn't even looking. Like, some of the defensive stuff wasn't good. And then he got benched basically for the rest of the half, which was the right decision. I was surprised that he started the second half. And in credit to him, I tweeted out, thankfully, he rocked up at halftime. Buddy Hield arrived at Chase Center at halftime and actually provided something to start the third quarter, provided a little bit of a spark. Okay, so credit to him for that. I know we've been having a fair crack here at Buddy Hield over recent weeks, but I do want to give him a shout out when he does bring something in that third quarter. He definitely did. Sorry, back to Cornelis's comment though on the shooting guard spot. Again, LaVine is that guy, but do you sacrifice Wiggins to do so? I don't know. There is. I've seen people on social media working out a trade that doesn't include Wiggins and doesn't include Draymond, and you can kind of do a FIFA swap where you give up. It's like Schroeder, Looney, Payton, Hield, Anderson, and then you get LaVine and maybe a couple of guys, minimum guys back, and then you fill out the rest of the roster. Okay, that's great. But you saw what Looney did in this game. Gary Payton II might have just played his best game this season too. I probably shouldn't leave him out of this discussion. He had 15 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, again in the starting role, right? Had that huge monster dunk over Hartenstein at the end of the game. Wow, that was something. Right, so you've got 3 guys here potentially in trade speculation who might have just had, that probably wasn't Wiggins' best game this season, but Looney and Payton, 2 guys on expiring deals who are usually thrown into the trade machine. They've just delivered season best performances, right? And if you're Chicago and you're looking to deal LaVine, why would you take on 5 guys? Now, I know 3 of those are expiring in the case of Schroeder, Looney, and GP2. I get that. That's something. The Warriors would have to give up a first-round pick. And this is the issue. The Warriors should have traded for LaVine during the offseason. They're basically trying to correct their mistake now. They're trying to correct their mistake and saying, hey, we actually should have got him in the offseason. We instead decided to waive Chris Paul, open up financial flexibility to go and get Kyle Anderson, Buddy Hield, DeAnthony Melton, which is now turned into Schroeder. And maybe now they've decided, oh, well, actually, no, we don't really want that depth. Those guys haven't really worked out. So hang on, can we trade like five of these guys for Zach LaVine? When they could have in the offseason just said, here's Chris Paul, GP2, Looney for Zach LaVine. That's how, we can't forget how low LaVine's value reportedly was during the offseason. And in fairness to the Warriors, no one wanted him. Not one single team wanted Zach LaVine. And now he's having a huge season, averaging 24 points a game. He's shooting 51% from the floor, nearly 45% from three-point range. He's the 2 guy that Cornelis is talking about, but unfortunately, he is still expensive from a salary matching perspective. And you'd probably have to give up assets for him now as well because he has just, his value has skyrocketed, obviously, based on his form this season. Sorry, just to get back to your guys' comments again. Dedex says Looney had such a good game and says if Steph had Shai's whistle, he's averaging 50 a night. Yeah, I don't really love watching Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, it must be said. I'm not a huge Like, he's a great player. Don't get me wrong, he's a great player. He's not the most aesthetically pleasing. He's a very skillful player. Like, he's an MVP candidate. No one's taking that away from him. But the foul baiting stuff is just, it's a tough watch sometimes for opposing fans. I'm sure it's great for OKC fans, but yeah, he has 52, and what did he get to the line? Like nearly 20 times? Yeah, 18 of 21. 21 attempts at the free throw line. My goodness. FTW Clint says, good win, took a team effort and some tough shot making down the stretch. Can we get 3 in a row on Friday? Yeah, we play the Suns on Friday, which is bound to be another big matchup, not just because it's against Phoenix, but of course they're also a pretty direct rival with the Warriors in terms of the standings right now, as the Warriors try to push their way up from the 11th spot in the West. Maddie says, trading Wiggins should be off the table. Yeah, for LaVine or Butler, yes, it should be off the table. He's the kind of player you got to trade him for, like a certified all-star starter, I'd say. Like, that's the level of player I'd trade Andrew Wiggins for right now. And I'm not like, he has his good moments and he has his bad moments, but they've been generally good this season. He's having a really good season. He's on a really reasonable contract. And he means a lot to the Warriors in terms of being their primary perimeter defender, of providing some athleticism to a team that doesn't have much athleticism, providing scoring to a team that doesn't have much scoring. Like, he just does a lot of things that the Warriors would otherwise lack if they lost him, right? So you're just not doing it for either LaVine or Butler. Douglas says, trade Draymond for Butler. I think there's a few people that might have mentioned that. I don't think it will happen. Then Nick says, we're so confusing. We beat the best team in the West, then we lose to a team that's 12 and 36. Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's just an effort thing. I think that second half, it was really... Now, some shots went in. Again, some of the shot making down the stretch is just like there was some BS stuff there. Again, where, Pod's step back jumper at the buzzer, Kyle Anderson turnaround fade away. Like, some of those shots are like real low percentage shots, and that happens sometimes. But I think sometimes you get some luck and sometimes you get some fortune on plays like that when you play the game the right way. And I think the Warriors got rewarded for playing hard and really lifting their intensity in the second half. JSW says, had B-ball training, so missed the game. How'd we win this? Not complaining, just a surprising dub. Well, I kind of just mentioned it. I think they really lifted the intensity. I think there was a real concerted effort from Steve. I'm sure he said it at halftime. Like, the first half, the Warriors, whenever they got into a half-court offense, just the Thunder's stifling defense. They couldn't score. They couldn't get any open looks. And yes, the Warriors were missing a heap of threes, but a lot of these threes were contested. And so the offense in the first half was pretty disastrous. And in the second half, I'm pretty sure Steve would have told the guys at halftime, okay, we get a rebound or a turnover. We're pushing. We want to play almost like, Mike D'Antoni back in the Phoenix days. Was it 7 seconds or less or whatever it was, trying to get a shot up quickly, because that's going to be our best look. If we get slowed down into a half-court style, that's really going to suit the Thunder. And so therefore, I think the Warriors got the game on their terms in the second half. And of course, in order to get those stops and get out in transition, you got to play really hard defensively, and I thought they did that. Matty says, I'd like to see Looney getting more minutes as well. Well, he got plenty in this. What did he play? 25 minutes, and we also saw plenty of Kyle Anderson's small ball center minutes as well. He played 15. Looney played 25. So that was basically 40 minutes there, and then Post got 8 minutes as a starter. So that was a notable thing. Quentin Post starting his first career start did not go to plan. He was 0.0 rebounds, 0 assists, 2 turnovers, 3 fouls, minus 11 in 8 minutes. Didn't play at all in the second half. So the entire second half was just Looney and Slow-Mo as a small ball option, which you can get away with when, the Thunder are playing Jalen Williams as their backup 5. So I didn't mind that. And Looney, played very, very well. As I said before, perhaps his best performance of the season. Orlando says GP2 showed up and showed out. Yep, probably his season best performance here, a week out from the trade deadline. It's something. GSO says Post started. I'm guessing he didn't play much because they went small, though. He, Trace, big big event here, I suppose. I'm losing my words. Too late in the day now. Big news, I suppose, was the fact that Trace Jackson-Davis got a DNP, was axed from the rotation completely, had started 37 of Golden State's 46 games heading into this one, had started 18 of the last 19 games, and then just not only did he get removed from the starting lineup, he was removed from the rotation entirely, which again, against the Thunder, who goes small without Hartenstein when Hartenstein's on the floor. Again, you can get away with it. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with that center rotation moving forward. Is Loon going to come back into the starting lineup? I thought Loon was going to start this game. They went to post. It didn't work. I was always worried about it. I was like, putting QP like on an island with Shea, like Shea's just going to see him out on the floor and just go at him every single time. And he did multiple occasions, picked up a couple of fouls. I think there was an and one in there. It wasn't really the game for Quinton Post, it must be said. But he got a start, and I think that's well deserved based on his development here and what he's shown for the Warriors over the past few games. Berserkmark says, was a great win for sure, but Loon had to have a career-high type of game on both ends of the floor. GP2 also played out of his mind. Yeah, you're not going to get those performances very often, so you better win when they come along. Like, it would have been disappointing if the Warriors had got those kind of performances from GP2 and Looney and Wiggins and went on to lose. Douglas says, Lonzo Ball. I think we've spoken. Did we speak about that yesterday? I think so, yeah. Jesso says, another healed start. Yeah. The first few minutes, I was like, oh, boy, this is a disaster. Again, I'm laughing about it because if you don't laugh, you'll cry. The third quarter from Buddy was better. Now, I don't think the box score numbers necessarily show up. He still only played 15 minutes. He was 5 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, steal, 2 of 6, 1 of 4, +7. So let's not pretend like he did much, but the third quarter was certainly an improvement, it must be said. Orlando says, Miles Turner and Aaron Neesmith in a package deal. Interesting. Yeah. So you'd probably start Neesmith at the 2. Interesting. Henry says GP2 is your favorite Warriors' favorite Warrior. He is a fan favorite, and so there will be no doubt some disappointment if he does get traded, which I think is still a legit possibility. Roosevelt says that GP2 dunk was out of control. Yeah, he's got some. It was good to see him finish one because oftentimes he can really try and rock the rim and go up for a posted dunk, and he often misses them. Thenix says Pod has been playing well since he came back. Yeah, spoke about that yesterday. Not as good a performance as yesterday, but still solid. 11 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 4 of 6, 1 of 3 from deep. Only played 18 minutes. Not sure if there was a bit of resting going on maybe after he played, reasonable minutes, obviously, yesterday, and he's just come back from injury, so maybe second night of a back-to-back, they wanted to rest him a little bit. Or maybe that's just how Schroeder was interesting because his numbers, 4 of 8. He only had 9 points, but he has 4 rebounds, 7 assists. He missed 2 free throws in the fourth quarter, which when he missed those two, I was like, geez, I hope that doesn't come back to bite us. But then the next possession, he made a really tough baseline jumper. So he was solid, and he played nearly 26 minutes. Interesting to see how the rotation plays out here. Draymond should be back within the next couple of games. So what that means for a heap of guys, we'll wait and see. Berserkmonk says Miles Turner could actually be attainable. The Pacers are most likely going to lose him this offseason. They can't extend him. He's able to test the market. Yeah, but are we going to so whoever trades for him, if it's the Warriors, you're giving him $30 million and you've got Kuminga's restricted free agency to worry about? Yeah, I'm not sure on that. GSW says, any updates on Kuminga's return? Well, they updated earlier in the week and said he'd be reevaluated in 2 weeks. I don't think we'll see him before the All-Star break. That's my thought. We've got couple of weeks here. Maybe we see him for a game or two before the All-Star break. Maybe. But at that point, it's like, well, why don't you just rest him and give him another week off? I don't know. Young Wes, Orlando says, I'm not down with them trading Wiggs or GP2. Who are you down for them to trade then? Let me know. Young West says Schroeder redeemed himself after those 2 missed free throws on the next offensive possession with the mid-range pull-up jumper. Yep. Lena says, I was pissed when Dennis missed those free throws. Douglas says, I was hoping we'd get LaVine last summer. Low-risk, high-reward move. Only downside was to Lacob's wallet. Yeah, exactly. They could have guaranteed Chris Paul's contract, moved him, and probably Peyton and Looney, it probably likely would have been, and they could have got LaVine, and they would probably be starting Steph, LaVine, Wiggins, Draymond, and someone, right? Like TJD still, maybe. I don't know. They'd be in a better position, I reckon. GSW says, should have traded Jordan Poole for LaVine. Anyone but CP3, honestly, waste of a trade. Yeah, you've got a point. I don't recall, where was LaVine at that summer after? Because he's really had, just that one injury-interrupted season, last year. And aside from that, he hasn't had too many injury troubles. Like his last 4 seasons, so he's played 42 games so far this season of, what have they played, like 46, 47 games. He's out at the moment for personal reasons. He played 25 last season, but before that played 77 and 67. You look at the numbers, like his scoring, it just goes under the radar. Like he's 20, so going back to 18-19, starting from there, he goes 23.7, 25.5, 27.4, and 24.4 in all-star years, 24.8, 19.5, and 24. So he's just like a 24, 25 point per game scorer. He's a 38.7% three-point shooter for his career on nearly 6 attempts per game. He's taking over 7 three-point attempts this season. He's 51.1% from the floor this season, 46.8% from his career. Like, he's just a really efficient guy. Like, and I think that's going under the radar a little bit. But again, would I give up Wiggins for him? Probably not. Back to your comments here. Roosevelt says, game plan was simple tonight. Let SGA eat, shut down the rest. Yep. And I think it proved effective in the end. I think Shea was probably getting a little bit tired late on. And at that point, like, there was no other Thunder player really in a rhythm aside from Jalen Williams. Berserkman says, we match up decent against the Thunder because they're not a big team. They're just lengthy and fast. Yeah, I mean, we've won 2 out of 3 now against them this season, I think. So, yeah. If they did have Chet, though, even if we had Dre, there's no way we stop a forward center like that. Yeah, Chet's an amazing talent. Chet would be so perfect for the Warriors right now. If there was one guy that you could put on the Warriors, if Chet was healthy, obviously, it might be him because he's like exactly what the Warriors need is a stretch big, skilled 20-point scorer. Orlando says it's possible to pay Miles Turner and sign Kuminga. Yeah, it's possible, but like, is that the best use of your salary if your salary cap if you're paying both Kuminga and Miles Turner in excess of $30 million a year? Like, to me, that's an overpay on both guys, but that's probably what you're looking at. Berserk Monk says they can extend them as long as they're willing to go into the luxury tax. Lacob just needs to write bigger checks. Well, the Warriors need to make the playoffs and get some revenue out of that. Orlando says get rid of Buddy and Dennis and Anderson's salary. So that gives you nearly $30 million to work with. So I suppose you could do that and get Vucevic, maybe. Oh, sorry. Obviously, you'd have to include Payton and Looney to get up to LaVine. I just don't see the Warriors aren't going to send 5 players out, are they? Surely not. Surely not. You can make the argument for it. I know Looney and GP2 were big in this game, but you could make the argument if Chicago were on board and said, here's literally Schroeder, Payton, Looney, Anderson, Hield for LaVine, and maybe you get like Torrey Craig and Javon Carter or something. And then obviously the Warriors give up whatever draft capital is needed. You can make an argument for it. Let me know. Berserkmonk says Pacers really like TJD and they sort of like Buddy. Got to throw in Slow-Mo, Loon, and GP2 in there for Turner. Yeah, Turner's on a pretty decent contract right now. So the issue with TJD is that he's on such a minimal contract that like he doesn't mean anything from a salary perspective. So yeah, if it's Buddy, yeah, one of Slow-Mo, Loon, and GP2. And you're saying TJD, the Warriors have to get another player back. Berserk Monk also says if Turner could learn the system, his ceiling is way higher than Loon. Yeah, I mean, he's just a better player. And I love Loon, but Miles Turner's just clearly an upgrade. Zenix says Shea played the whole fourth. I think, no, I don't. I think he rested a couple of minutes. I'll tell you. He came back in at the 9:55 mark. He got all of 2 minutes and 5 seconds. Thendex says no point in signing players for a lot of money if we don't make the playoffs. Yeah, that's my issue. Like if you've got Steph, Kuminga, Turner all making 30 plus, Steph's making like 60, and then Draymond is making 25, and then we also got Wiggins still in that scenario making 25 as well. Like you can't have all 5 guys, can you? I'm not sure you can do that. Miles Turner is 19 million. Aaron Nesmith, 2 seconds for Dennis, Anderson, Looney, and Waters. I can guarantee you that I don't think Indiana are taking 2 seconds. I think you'd have to give up a first, maybe a protected first. I don't know. Like, I'm maybe out of the loop a bit on this in terms of obviously his demands in free agency and therefore I've seen his name, like I've wrote about it. I've seen his name reported as one that could be available based on obviously the free agency stuff and the fact that Indiana might not want to pay him. But that doesn't mean the Pacers are just going to get rid of him for expiring contracts. Like I still think they'd want a first round pick in exchange for Miles Turner, but we'll wait and see. Berserkman says 1 week to decide what they will do. I still think Turner is a better overall asset to have, at least if things don't work out. He can be flipped for stuff. Yeah, but it's obviously all dependent on what you have to give up, really. Like the thing with like, would you rather give up a first round pick and get Turner, or would you rather give up second round picks and get Vucevic? I could probably do that. Well, yeah, but then you go like I'd probably prefer to give up the first round pick for Turner, but then like again, you're signing him for probably more than $30 million in free agency, and you've still got Vucevic for like 21. So all of a sudden, from next season, you're paying Turner on a multi-year deal at $10 million more. I don't know. Henry says, I suggested a trade for Vucevic and Torrey Craig and 2 3 round picks for Kyle Anderson, Buddy Hield, Kevon Looney in the 2025 first round pick. Yeah, that was something to come out of the report today as well. Thanks for noting that down. The Warriors, it does sound like, I'm just going to get it up. Let me just get up the article from The Athletic, because it started with the Warriors wanting or being open to dealing their 2025 first round pick if it's protected. So here's the start of it. As conversations increase in advance of the Feb 6 trade deadline, the Golden State Warriors have floated a protected version of their 2025 first round pick around the NBA as a potential sweetener if the right deal were to materialize. League sources told The Athletic. The Warriors are straddling the middle. They have a 23-23 record, now 24-23, and zero intention of entertaining a Steph and Curry rebuild trade, but they don't currently have a clear move on the chessboard that vaults them back into immediate contention. But there are mid-sized options and larger salary swings that are exploring to varying degrees, and the introduction of the protected 2025 first rounder as part of the conversation gives them more spending power. And then it goes into LaVine and Butler and the Warriors' interest in both of those players. Interesting. One of the things on LaVine was that LaVine might pique more interest than Butler depending on the cost, and he's also seen as like a safer bet than Butler, which I agree with. Orlando says sign Kevin Knox and post to cheap deals. Yeah, that's if there's a 3-for-1 trade and you got to fill out your roster, that's probably what's going to happen. It's going to be Post, and that was in the report as well. Post likely to have his 2-way contract converted if they do need to fill out the roster, and then Kevin Knox is someone that I think makes a lot of sense based on how good he's been in the G League for the Warriors. Orlando says Miles Turner is better than Vucevic and younger, plus plays both sides of the ball. Yeah, I agree. I'm just still hesitant on giving him over $30 million a year, but we'll wait and see. Henry says, I figured if they want the first round pick so bad, we get second round picks as compensation. Yeah, I just want that. So you're saying that you said the 2025 pick, didn't you? Yeah. You got to protect that somewhat. I don't want to miss the playoffs and then all of a sudden there's some horrific draft lottery. Well, there's some good draft lottery for the Warriors and we get a top 10 pick, but all of a sudden it's going to Chicago for Vucevic. Like, no thanks. Berserk Monk says, I'd give the first for Turner, put protections on it. If Vuce ends up being a dud, he's untradeable. I don't think Vuce would be untradeable if he's only expiring. Like, come the offseason, he'll be on an expiring contract. Miles is clearly the guy I believe so too. It's just I doubt the Pacers would deal with us at all. If Berserk Monk says if Warriors give a first to Vuce, then they are horrible at negotiations, absolute fleeced by the Bulls. Yeah, well, like it's been reported that the Warriors, that the Bulls want a first round pick and the Warriors are only offering second round picks. So if the Warriors end up giving a first round pick to the Bulls, then it kind of just shows you that the Warriors crumbled in negotiations and relented to the first round pick request. Henry says Jackson Rowe too. He's a brilliant small forward. Yeah, just signed to a 2-way contract with the Warriors. I haven't actually discussed that yet. Henry says our ability to draft diamonds out of the rough is the reason why I'd consider trading the first, but it is a risk for sure. Yeah, the ability to draft diamonds out of the rough is also why you might consider the 5-for-1 LaVine trade. If that was, again, I don't think Chicago would do it, but you kind of think, oh, well, we've depleted our depth by doing that. But like they've unearthed Quentin Post here as a legit rotation player. Guy Santos is now like a legit rotation player. You still got Draymond and Kuminga to come back from injury now. Like in that situation, you're still going to have. So if you did like the 5-for-1 trade, right? Which again, I don't think this will happen, but hypothetically, you did the 5-for-1 trade. All of a sudden, it's like Steph, LaVine, Wiggins, Draymond, TJD. Okay, I don't really like the Draymond TJD front court, but the alternative is probably Quentin Post. So that's like those five, and then Pods. You'd have to try and get a backup point guard. This is where it gets tricky. You'd still have Pods, Kuminga, Moody, Santos, Post. There's 10, right? And then you work it out from there. Lindy Waters still on the team. That's 11. Yeah. Anyway. Henry says, it's just how do we match the money for LaVine? We lose so much in the back end. Orlando says, Miles Turner, Aaron Nesmith, first protected for 1 second for Dennis, Looney, Kyle. Miles Turner is only 19 million right now. A lot of Miles Turner. A lot of it. I like it. I like Miles. I love Miles Turner on the Warriors. Do I love him for over $30 million a season when you're re-signing him? And what if he just walks for nothing as an unrestricted free agent? Henry says, as for backups, Pat Spencer. Yeah, I think I'd want better than Pat Spencer in terms of a backup point guard. And I also, as I've spoken about previously, I don't want Pods to be thrown back into that because I think Schroeder's been pretty good for him and his impact on the game, with Pods not having to be that backup point guard, primary shot creator off the bench. All right, I'm going to finish it up there. We've been going for nearly 32 minutes. I might be back for another episode tomorrow because we are getting these trade reports, speculation pretty frequently here, and there's a good chance I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning and there's going to be more stuff. So I might jump back on for a normal podcast episode regarding that. Warriors play the Suns on Friday. I'm not sure if I'll be able to do a post-game live yet or not because I think I've got to go out Saturday night. Which is Saturday night Australian time, that is, which the games finish at about 5 p.m. here the next day, if that makes sense. So it's just gone 6 p.m. here Australian time on the Thursday. So we'll wait and see. Yeah, Douglas just says, what time is it in Australia? It's 6 p.m. Time for me to go have dinner, sit down, maybe do a little bit more writing for bluemanhoop.com. But thanks to all of you that have tuned in and contributed to this live stream. If you're watching on replay, thank you to you too. And to those of you that are listening via the podcast feed, if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel already, that would be greatly appreciated. You can follow me at POK252. That's POK252 on X/Twitter. I might be back, as I said, for a podcast episode tomorrow. Otherwise, let's hope the Warriors can get a third straight win. It's been, I think, 2.5 months since the Warriors got 3 wins in a row when they faced the Phoenix Suns at Chase Center on Friday. Thanks again, guys.